Hey everybody, Gary here with Guitar Tricks, and in this video, I want to share with you 5 tips to help you save years in your journey towards mastering chords and chord progressions. So if you apply these things, you're going to learn them so much more quickly. Before we get into it, please go ahead and click subscribe so that you get all of the latest and greatest content from Guitar Tricks. And if you want to be notified of any new lesson, be sure to tap the bell and let us know in the comments section what you'd like to see in future lessons. That's where we're always looking for ideas. Also, on our website, we've compiled a little collection of lessons on chord tips. So if you want to learn more on this topic, go to guitartricks.com/chord tips. And there on the website, you'll find sequential courses on guitar fundamentals, rock, blues, country, a library of high quality song lessons, and so much more. All right, let's get into the lesson. So the first thing I'm going to call the hover game. So I'm a former elementary school music teacher, so I always like to gamify things. And the whole goal of the hover game is to stop you from building the chord on the fretboard. So let's say you're trying to learn a C major chord, right? So here's a C major. Now when I grab the C major, I just kind of grab it in one motion, right? I don't go like this. And this is what I see a lot of players do. Maybe you don't do that on the C, but I'm sure you do it on other chords. I do it on other chords, right? A lot of people start on one note and then they just build the chord on the fretboard. But then when they take their hand away, they can't hold that chord grip without the guitar. So what we want to do is get the grip in our muscle memory so that even if we had an invisible guitar, we're able to play that chord. And that's going to help us get that grip ready before we even get to the place on the fretboard. So the way that we do this is first, play the C chord any way you can. Then I want you to just lift your fingers and hover them. Just hover your fingers right above the fret and the string, right? So my index finger is just about a centimeter above the first fret on string 2, counting toes to nose. My middle finger's hovering just above the second fret of string 4, counting toes to nose. My ring finger's hovering just above the third fret of string 5. And then I'm hovering them right. The tips of the fingers are pointed straight there. And then I'm going to drop it down and play the chord, right? Lift, hover. Now your fingers are going to want to move. They have this mind of their own. So you're just doing this slowly. You're trying to hold it there. You're paying attention. You're making sure they're right over the spot they're supposed to be, dead center over that string. Drop it down, play the chord, right? Awesome. Now, you want to be able to do this on 2 chords. So let's say we have a chord progression that goes from C to D. Now what we want to do with this hover game is take any 2 chords, and from the D, I'm going to then hover over the C. I'm not touching anything. I'm just getting my fingers in place over the C. I'm hovering them, then drop it down, play the chord. Okay, now I'm going to go hover towards the D. So I lift from the C. I'm going to hover over the D. All my fingers are right over the spot they're supposed to be. They're about, a centimeter or 2 above. Drop it down, play the chord. Okay, now I come back to C. Right? So see how my fingers, they're all traveling together. They get in the position and then they drop down. That's what we're going for here. The second game is an offshoot of that called Stick the Landing. And that's just take a chord, hover it, drop it. Play, lift, play, lift, play, lift, play, lift. Right? Now I go to the D, play, lift, right? Just like when we're working out in the gym, we just want to get repetitions, right? That's what it's all about, repetitions. So we could kind of get all these repetitions by doing the Stick the Landing game, right? Okay, the third one is called 1 minute changes. Set a timer for 60 seconds, 1 minute, right? I'm going to do that. In that minute, I'm going to count how many times I can cleanly switch between C and D. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, so on and so forth, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to show off there, but you get the idea. But you want to do it cleanly. If it doesn't sound good and it's like, don't count those, right? So you might start and it's just 1, 2, or maybe you're starting and it's 1, right? And track yourself. It's so cool to see measurable progress. Often when we're doing these things, it's hard to measure progress. So anytime we can actually measure some progress, it's like, oh, look at that. And maybe if you try this game, you play 1 minute changes at the start of your practice session, at the end, or you do it, okay, I did 1 minute, let me take a little break, I'll do another minute. You're going to see just over the course of an hour, you might get 10% better, 20% better, right? So it's pretty amazing what could happen by just having this kind of structured, measurable approach. The next one is called the brain game. So the idea with this is to think of each one of your fingers is like its own separate entity with its own brain. And typically one of these fingers is the captain, is running the show. So I watch a lot of players, they're index finger dominant. So any chord they go to play, index finger goes down first, and then the other fingers, right? If we go back to this, it looks like that, right? That index finger is leading the show. Maybe some people are more ring finger dominant. They start here, and they build it from their ring finger. So what we want to do is we want to train the other fingers to be leaders. And when each finger is able to be a leader, they could all collaborate as equals. Right? That's the idea. So when we take this C chord, what we're going to do, we're going to go from C to D, but we want to take turns giving each finger the leadership role. So we're going to take the index fingers first. We want the index finger to go down first. This kind of goes against what I said about hovering, all fingers going together, right? But it's just to help you get there by giving each finger its own sense of autonomy. Because once we could do that, then they could start to work better together. So the idea here, start with your index finger. Put your index finger down first on the C chord, then the others. Now, when you go to the D chord, your index finger is going to go to where it needs to go as fast as possible. And then the other fingers are going to follow. So where's my index finger going to go? My index finger is going to go on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, counting toes to nose. So I'm going to do that in 1, 2, 3, boom, got there. Now put the rest of the chord down. And now back to the C. I know where that's going to go, right where it came from. 1, 2, 3, to the D, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Look how fast that finger is able to get where it needs to go, almost instantly, right? Okay, now let's change leadership roles. Let's go to the middle finger. So my middle finger is going to go down first on the C chord. Where's it going to go? It's going to go on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. Then put the others down. Let's try that again. Okay, now where's it going to go for the D chord? It's going to stay on the same fret and go to the 1st string, 2nd fret of the 1st string, counting toes to nose. 1, 2, 3. Then drop the rest down. Now back to the C. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, now let's give the ring finger the leadership role. So on the D, it's on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, counting toes to nose. So put that one down first, then put the others down. Okay, then for the C, it's going to stay on the 3rd fret and go on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now cycle between them. Index finger. Middle finger. Ring finger. Back to the hover game. Right? I'm really building my subtle kinesthetic awareness and intelligence in my fingers for these chords, right? Just that subtle movements. And it's never going to happen if I just keep building the chord on the fretboard slowly. I've got to kind of force the issue. And this is going to work with any chord, any switch. The last tip I have is to isolate the change. I see a lot of people play songs and there's just one change they struggle with. Like, let's say the chord progression goes C, G, A minor, F, right? And they'll be going. Right? And they just stop and then they slow down and then they keep going. And then when they go to practice it, they go back to the beginning of the song to practice it. Just isolate the change. Isolate the change. Zoom in. I always talk about zooming in, zooming out. If there's one little thing giving you trouble, just zoom right into it. What is the issue? And this is just a general thing in any sort of practice. Like, for instance, I have a gig this weekend and I have to solo on What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. And it's pretty straightforward. It's all in the key of E. But the last chord of the progression is this B7 or B9 sus4 chord. I know it sounds fancy. I've been having trouble improvising over that chord in my solo, and I keep just avoiding zooming in on that. I'll just solo over the progression. I'll practice soloing, and then I get over that chord, and I don't really know what to do. So yesterday, what I did is I looped the last two chords of the progression, an A minor 9 to a B9 sus4, and I just practiced that chord transition. And it was so helpful. I've soloed live at weddings over this chord progression so many times, and I always just kind of fudge that last chord. And now, because I just zoomed in, addressed the issue, I saved myself months of flubbing around, right? Like, because it would have just kept happening. And then just within 20 minutes, boom, I solved that problem. So if that F is your problem, or a C to an F, then you just do all the things we just talked about, but zoom in on your C to F, because that's the problem. All right, everybody, I hope you found these tips helpful. If you want to learn more about playing guitar, especially chord tips, go to guitartricks.com/chord tips. But at the website, you'll find sequential courses on guitar fundamentals, rock, blues, country, a guitar toolbox, a library of high-quality song lessons, and so much more. Happy playing, and I'll see you in the next lesson.